Well, Doug's heard this a million times. So, welcome everyone. There's a lot of actually new faces, which is always great, and a lot of old faces. I don't mean old looking, but have been here for a long time. I'm Francesca Schuler, for those that don't know. They can probably see my name on emails, though they're not all sent by me. They're sent by some very helpful partners that I have. So Catherine is our guest company. I'm going to have her introduce herself, but just for those that haven't been here, it's very informal. So the only requirement is that you have a point of view, but don't pontificate. So would ask that with the only thing, be respectful of other people's points of view in the room. Catherine will give a little company overview. She has some specific questions. Feel free to ask questions, but really it's just to help her, hone her idea. It's a really relevant one for, I think, a lot of us as marketers. So she'll get a lot out of tonight. But again, there's no hand raising or anything like that. Just kind of jump in. But if someone does talk too much, we will gently nudge you to potentially let somebody else speak. So I'll just say that up front. We are in the transition of going from kind of paperless old school, paper and pen, to completely paperless. But would just ask, if you haven't used Eventbrite to sign up for tonight, just note down on here mainly so I can get your email and I'll put you on the mailing list. And I think, is there anything else I'm supposed to say? I think that's it, right? Did I cover anything else? I'm good? Okay. So with that, I will turn it over to Catherine. Welcome.
So hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And special thanks to Francesca for inviting me out from DC. So my name is Catherine Long and I'm the founder of Illustria Designs. We're pioneering a subscription-based model for graphic design. And more specifically, we're trying to address a problem that maybe many of you have seen before as marketers. So that is the difficulty of sourcing quality and reliable design, but on a flexible and cost-efficient basis. So I'm going to share with you our story. So earlier this year, I was a senior at Wharton, and I was working on a mobile apps startup with a few of my friends. So we had decided to forsake Wall Street for more grandiose startup ambitions. We quickly realized that in order to market our product, though, there had to be a product to market. So that required a lot of front-end design. And after searching around, we quickly realized that it was actually pretty difficult to find a good designer on a flexible basis. So we tried pretty much everything. I mean, we reached out to designers whose portfolios we liked on Behance, on DeviantArt, on Dribble, but we also looked into other options like Odesk, Elance, and 99 Designs for freelancers. But everywhere we went, it seemed like we ran into problems. So for one thing, we realized that the design quality that we were getting, it wasn't necessarily correlated with how much we spent. So it was difficult to see, even if this designer has a good portfolio, are they a good fit for us? And luckily I do come from an art background, but I just kept thinking, if somebody didn't come from an art background and they were trying to find a designer for a business purpose, it would be even harder for them to go through this process. And for many of our early hires, we just kept wondering, where in the world is our designer? So, because they always some of them seem to disappear at the most inopportune times, whether it was for days or weeks at a time, and then we couldn't reach them when we needed to. So sometimes the deadlines went unmet, and the whole process was kind of cost efficient, not just from a money and cash perspective in terms of what we spent, but also in terms of time. So if we made a bad choice in hiring somebody, it could put us back weeks, because not only do we have to decide, well, we don't really want them anymore, but then we have to go look for other people, and that takes time too. So that's how we got the idea that there had to be a better way. Because I guess there is the alternative of going for a high-end agency, but it's just out of our reach as a smaller company, and maybe some of them don't want to work with you unless we're the big brands. So that's how we came up with Illustria. So I started to validate my idea by talking to different people, different Wharton alums, Francesca included,
That is not me.
And through these conversations, I realized that,
Thank you.
it wasn't just startups that was having these problems. It was like big companies like Bevmo, medium-sized companies, and smaller companies too. It was all facing these same pain points. So, especially in our modern world where design is marketing and marketing is design, we just really believe there needed to be a better solution. So I founded Illustria Designs with the mission of bringing businesses the convenience of in-house design, but without the cost. So I'm going to show you quickly how it works. So the first thing is businesses select a membership tier. So that gives them a certain number of hours each month. So whether it's 10, 25, 50, 100, or even 1,000 hours a month, if you're a big enterprise, you can buy into this plan. So we grow as the companies grow with tiers for all their needs, and we also have hours rollover. So if you don't use up all your hours, it just rolls over to the next month, kind of to get that seasonality and flexibility. So I guess I would compare this with Netflix because it lowers the cost, so it's flexible. So the subscriptions don't lock you in for a year. If you want to cancel it, it's easy to cancel. If you want to start it back up again, it's easy to start up. The pricing's transparent. But still, you're getting the lower cost because it's a subscription. You're pooling the cost with the other users. And then we also have the variety. So I guess the analogy would be like a gym. So at the gym, you have all these different machines. You can do yoga, you can run, you can lift weights, you can bike. And you don't have to pay for those machines and put it in your house. You can just use it at the gym by subscribing. And similarly for us, you can access the different designers, whether doing print, mobile, digital, or even if it's industry specific, so like healthcare, real estate, there would be different designers that specialize in that, but at a lower cost because you are pooling those costs with other people. So after they sign up, then they get introduced to their creative director, and the creative director goes through initial brand consultation to create a plan for them as to how they do their design objectives. So the CD, the creative director, they're in charge of basically turning your business objectives into design objectives and helping you translate that plan. So they internalize your brand guidelines if you are a big company and you have those. So it's very brand consistent, as you can see. And then at the same time, the role of the CDs to get rid of the learning curve. So as marketers, it's probably very frustrating to constantly have to re-educate new designers on your brand guidelines every single time. Well, the idea is you don't have to do that anymore once you have your CD because they'll be doing it for you. And then after that, you can start adding requests onto our online platform, the Deadlines on Demand. So as you can see, once you log in, you can make the requests. There's different categories that you can choose, and there would be questions that's relevant to that category to help you make a design brief. You set the deadline, and then the team starts working on it. So you set the deadline, so it's like fast turnaround times, and then we also don't have that conflict of interest. So if you go with a traditional agency, say you have like a small request you need for some conference next week, but the agency's doing a multi-million-dollar campaign for a Fortune 500 next week. So maybe your request is going to get lost because it's projects-based. But since we're hours-based, we already plan for you in advance since it's subscription, and your needs will be met because we already planned for it. So then lastly, it's finished up with an Illustria designer. That's kind of the platform behind me. So you can see everything on the cloud, all the revisions, all the changes you need to make, when it's going to be delivered, and it's instantly synced so you can see everything at all times from the first draft to the final draft. So there's no more costs of the hidden search costs of trying to find it yourself, the talent. And we actually make sure all of our talent is in-house, so you don't get that reliability issue. We don't have any freelancers. Everybody is within the agency, so that helps with that point to make sure that they're accountable to your business. So we actually came up with the idea in March, and then we launched our product last month with a few beta companies in our private beta. And so far it's going well. We're still experimenting, we're still learning. But we found that large, mid, and small size companies alike all like to use the product, but they have different use cases. So I'm going to share some of these case studies with you guys, see what you think. So one of our large size companies is WWE, or World Wrestling Entertainment. And for them, since they're so large, we just provide them with extra capacity when they need it. So it's on a flexible, cost-efficient basis. Since they're an entertainment company, they're constantly churning out content every single day, and their needs vary very widely throughout the year. So they, even though they're a very big company, they actually can't afford to hire everybody full-time. So we kind of help them through those periods. So previously, they had incurred very high costs when they needed the work done for the critical periods, but we're able to lower that by 30% from what they've shared with us. So it's been good for them. And we also help take care of their standardized work and let their in-house team do the more high-level creative stuff that they're used to doing. And so for instance, we've been working on their pay-per-view advertisements. So it's more standardized creative work rather than actually creating the content, which their actual creative team helps with. And then on the mid-tier side, we have the Madeira School. It's a private boarding school for girls in DC. They've just been trying it out. So for them, we fill the role of a part-time designer. So they actually do have a full-time designer, but that person can't handle everything. But they don't have enough work that they want to hire another one. So we just kind of fill that gap with their admissions material. And also we help the different departments remain on brand. Because since we're like a cloud platform, anybody can log in. So whether it's admissions or philanthropy or the alumni office, they can all use the same service to guarantee that same brand through the centralized system. And at the same time, their marketing department can check out what the different departments have been requesting and where everything is so far. So that's what we do for them. And then on the smaller side, we have some startups with us as well. This is Pervasive. They're a hardware startup in Boston. They do telecom. And for them, they don't have any design resources except for us. So we get to play a more branding role with them. We actually help them, you know, with the logos for their products, typography, the color choice, everything. So for the smaller companies, we actually fill all the holes for the miscellaneous design needs, whether it's the marketing collateral, the trade show, or the website. So that's pretty much it. And now I'd like to open up to you guys for discussion, so maybe we can have a conversation about it, and I'd love to hear what you guys think, since hopefully you guys are the target audience.
So, Catherine, I think it's a really cool idea. First, I have a funny thing to tell you. So, you realize that the WWE used to be the WWF.
Really?
Yeah, the World Wrestling
Federation.
And then they got sued by the World Wildlife Foundation. And so their campaign to change their name was "Get the F Out," which I thought was hilarious.
Brilliant.
So that's a funny story. But here's a question for you, which is, you've got all your designers in-house. And I think one of the things I've noticed, I'm a marketing dinosaur, but one of the things I've noticed over the last 10 or 15 years is there are lots of great designers that you could get from all over the United States or theoretically all over the world who could freelance for you. That seems like a logical extension as your business grows
We
and
think we
potentially
may add it in the future, but right now, because, when I talk to the different businesses and from my own personal experience, when I was doing the other startup, we felt that deadlines were so important. We want to absolutely guarantee that at the start. Later maybe we can come up with a system to make sure that they're turning in everything on time, but right now, we're going to have them in-house, so we're absolutely sure they can be accountable to our clients.
So what happens when you guys are over capacity or under capacity?
Well, we try to plan that in advance. So if we have, say, in terms of hours, the companies are buying it maybe 1.5 designers, we would just add on a second designer. So we would make sure to hire in advance.
Is that designer's coming on for a month, or is that a full-time job?
It would be a full-time job.
Okay.
I think his question was, at this point, with the staff that you have, are you using your full-time staff 100% or under capacity, over capacity?
It's pretty much 100% right now. We're trying to add on more clients. We're just adding on a salesperson as well. So we're really trying to ramp up growth now that we've kind of proven it a little bit, and now we're just trying to grow. And we're okay with the fact that, even if we may lose a little bit of money in the short term to add on that extra designer, making the clients happy will guarantee our long-term success.
What are your biggest pain points?
What are our biggest pain points?
Yeah, what can we help you work through right now?
I had a list of questions. It was on the thing. But so what do you feel that this is solving your pain points from, your experience?
Yeah, I think the example that you showed,
Yeah.
where it's basically the in-house team does the primary design, but then you do the 15,000 variations that are necessary for the media that they use. I think that's a big solve.
I think the question I have is around sort of what the account person plays in an agency, because the burden now completely shifts to the company to have to deal with that, right? Because what a good account person does for you, even on a small scale, is they eyeball it for mistakes. You know what I mean? So I don't have to do it, or somebody on my team doesn't have to do it. They also make sure, think about the sequencing of timing of getting do the email first before the banner, or whatever it is. They sort of think through all of that, and that's one.
We learned that we actually have to be proactive with our clients, because if we're not proactive and don't help them plan it, some of them actually forget about it, and then they'll be like, oh, why am I buying this? And then they'll cancel. So with all of them, we make a plan in advance for what we want to do this month, and then 3 months, 6 months down the line, and then revisit it every month. So I
you
think
do
that the account
project
people
planning.
are customer success.
Right.
So software as a service companies, they have a whole department focused on customer success, which is keeping them using it. And for us, I think that falls under the account executive, like you were saying.
How long is the subscription period?
So it's whatever you want. If you want to cancel it after a month, there's no penalty, but
So that's hard
it's
for you
month to month.
That's hard.
Or does the onus fall on the actual client to determine the hours, or how does that work? So if I signed up and I wanted, 60 hours, thinking my project or the project that you're going to run with is 60 hours, but it ends up, that it only takes 30 hours, how does that work? Do we get billed in advance, or how does the billing process work?
So you're billed in advance, but you can use those extra 30 hours for other things you want to do.
What if it takes 90 hours? Which is
We
probably
buy
more
more
realistic
hours, or-
examples, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, you can whip this down 20 hours, and it's really like 100.
So we try to
That's my account person will tell you.
Keep that in mind when you sign her up.
That would be a
So
money.
we thought about this, and I actually think that because it's a monthly retainer model, and we have to keep going every month to make them happy, it actually incentivizes us not to overcharge them for hours. So, we give an estimate up front, and we're just very clear if it could change or not. And if you get less, then we'll revise it down as well.
So are you gambling on the idea that some users will not use all of their hours, so that you can divert those from other clients to the 100-hour cases that pop up? Is that kind of how you figure
So
it'll
if you
happen?
need extra hours, you can buy it, but I do think that, actually, I know for a fact that some of them actually don't use all their hours, so,
But they roll
in
over,
one-
so they always think they have the hours.
well, it doesn't, like, it depends on what tier you have, so for some plans, if you're buying less, you can't just roll it over infinitively.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh.
So how many levels are there?
So right now, there's 4 that you can just purchase online without having to ask us. But for the bigger ones like WWE, obviously they're going to use way more than 100. So we have a special deal with them.
So,
So for like 20 hours a week, how much is it? What is my rate?
You mean 20 hours?
Or 20 hours a month, like what is my rate?
For 25 hours a month, your rate would be around 65.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a good deal.
That's
Oh,
very
that's so
good.
cheap.
It's a great
That's
deal.
very
So
good.
that's an interesting question.
That's a
too,
great question.
Which
Yeah.
is ultimately you're going to be in this relatively low margin business because the people that are going to be interested are going to be using you how WWE uses you, and I think that's how Bevmo would use you, that's how Pepsi would use you, whatever. The real margins in this business is when you can add strategic thinking to design, and have you thought about how that evolves? Because there could be a second or third or fourth entrant into this category, and then you're all kind of commoditized, and the margins, the low margin that you already have, could get lower.
Well, if you think about her example is Netflix, and the majority of money made by Netflix are by people like me who never actually turn in my Netflix. I actually subscribe and spend a lot of money for nothing because I'm too busy. And if she gets enough customers who are too busy to take advantage of a subscription that's on a credit card that you're not paying any attention to, that is her moneymaker. 2-3 years down the road, huge amount of money on inattentive accounts.
You said you had room.
And I also think it has
Yeah.
to do with the psychology behind buying it. So, as I mentioned, there's very high switching costs in design because you have to get a new designer, you have to re-educate them, you don't know like what the quality is you're gonna get. And I think that once people become comfortable with us, know us, and like us, even if they're not using all of their hours, they're still gonna be reluctant to switch because they would like to have that extra capacity on hand with people that they feel comfortable with.
How do you guarantee the same designer? Because I agree with Tom. There's no question there's a need, but I think the one challenge is, even within an agency where you have a full team who's dedicated to you on that team, there's 2 people that get it and 3 that I'm like, yeah, get them off. They don't, and so how do you guarantee that you get the people on there that, it's true. It's because they have a passion for your brand and they get it.
Right.
If you're doing like an annual report, maybe not so much, but if you're trying to design a website or whatever it is, there's sort of people that intuitively, that's the creative process. So how do you make sure that, say,
We'd want to consult with you to make sure that you're happy with them, and if you're
Right.
not happy with them, then we'd want to switch them. So you could get somebody else who really understands your brand. But it's also efficient for us that if they do understand your brand and they have that emotional connection, then it's going to be efficient for you and for us if we let them work on your brand, since they already get it.
I think it's one of your advantages is that once you have the WWE or another client that latches on and they have that connection with the creative director, I think you're right. I think that is one of your advantages is that you're going to have that one person that's made that connection. They're going to be reluctant to change, and that would be the one thing that you certainly want to press forward on.
Going back to your point about the margins, I've thought about that, and I think I'm willing to sacrifice a lower margin in return for more volume, because even though the big stuff you see, it's done by BBDO, the big agencies, those are the ads you see on TV, but 80% of the design is probably made out of pretty boring, just your everyday design projects that need to get done, like the brochures of the world.
No, I agree. Actually, I think one of your target customers should be agencies.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a tremendous amount of overhead for these guys at Burrow Odell, and they've got people that are pouring out these ideas. And
most of them outsource it. A lot of people outsource that already.
Yeah. But I think that's actually you might want to start.
Okay.
Your business
Yeah.
development there as opposed to looking for more Madeira schools.
Who's hired freelance designers here? So what's been the hardest thing about it?
Well,
I
she
think we all know
nailed
the ease of it, right? It's
There are people
flexible.
who disappear on you.
Right.
There are people who don't get it. There are people who they nod their head and then you see the work and you know, okay, they don't get it, and you have to micromanage or you have to drop them altogether. And then you have to then carry the cost of them, and there's a lot involved in managing both employees and freelancers.
And then rehiring them, finding a new person.
And then when you do like them, and you're working with them, and they're freelancers, boom, all of a sudden they land a full-time job, and you're out.
I think the capacity has been an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like typically you end up, the freelancers you hire are people that you already know and trust, but they're typically, 1-2 man
Yes.
shops, and they can get over capacity, and then
Or
you're,
2 or 3 projects, and all of a sudden you got 2 or 3 projects, and then all of a sudden you're 7, and they can't. They're the one person that one person you're relying on, and they don't have the bandwidth to do it all.
So I had some questions to follow on from about, so is the $65 an hour for the account director and the creatives behind them, or
No,
are we
it's
paying
just the
separately?
creative.
Just the creative. So what's your fees for because it
There
seems to me
are
the
no
key
fees.
person is the client services person. They're your portal into you is that individual. Do you pay separately for them, or?
No, you don't. So the hours are design hours, but you don't need extra hours or anything for your key person.
Their design hours and their production hours and their meeting hours
Everything's
and their
$65
phone hours, their hours.
all just within the
You're
creative
just
fee of
subscribing for so
$65.
many hours.
And the other question I had was to do with, design is a massive field. I mean, there's digital agencies, there's ad agencies, there's print, Are you providing everything? There seems to be no bounds to what you're able to do, and yet you say you have a full-time staff internally. You have a massive staff who have this breadth of talent. So it's just wondering what
I
the
mean, right
resources-
now, it's not that big, but, it's not like with no bounds. We're not going to do like fashion design or anything like that. Right now, it's pretty much just print and digital, which I think that
Print and
they-
digital. Okay, I
which
think
they
I
can
missed that
handle.
one.
So what skills do you guys offer? Is it like CSS, design, Photoshop? What is like the range right now?
So basic CSS and HTML. I mean, they can put together like static pages for you, but they're not going to program the Java or anything like that.
And then
But I think, at least I would expect a designer to know HTML and CSS in this age.
and then like Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator too, I'm guessing. Anything else there?
I mean, that's pretty much it.
That's
Yeah.
Everything's on this.
Well, I noticed you had I was looking at the job intake form, so you have a whole menu of options that the client can choose from when they specify a new order. And there was like PowerPoint design, and there were other things. I mean, if you wanted to use it,
Yeah.
logos was at the top of the list. So the client can specify the type of work that they need. I suppose maybe the question is that menu available up front so they understand the breadth of your service?
It's on the website. Yeah. You had a question?
I did, and this was more just to find out if you've already thought this through, and this is something you're working on, kind of in the background. There's a new trend, and maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not, that a lot of these larger freelance agencies are now offering freelancers, once they've been freelancing for 90+ days, 401k, medical, and dental. I just learned that just like last week.
No, what do you mean? You mean like Creative Circle and that kind of stuff? Like staffing
This
firms?
one was at more of a private, smaller scale agency. called the
Are you
Crawford
talking
Group.
about a staffing firm?
Yeah, strictly staffing.
Okay.
And in fact, they made that very clear that they didn't
I mean-
hire anybody full time. It's strictly staffing, and they said after you've been freelancing for them for 90+ days, they actually have 401k and medical and dental, which I've never
That's
even
pretty
heard of
good.
ever. So I don't know if that's something you're thinking about,
Yeah, I'm thinking about that,
but
yes. I mean, we
thought
want
I'd
to
throw that
offer
out there.
them good benefits, and I like from a high level perspective, I think that, you know, when you're talking about those one-man shops, mom and pops, you're totally right. In the mid-market for design, it's mainly one-man freelancers or maybe like 5-person shops, and I think that's a huge opportunity to consolidate them. So we kind of want to be like the target of design. So, I mean, it's cheap, it's stylish, but it gets the job done, and I think that there's like a mass market for it. And I think that I actually think freelancers would enjoy working for us, because I think artists, not all of them really like doing business development. They like the creative aspect of it. And with us, they can work for many different types of companies, and they can choose what they want to do, like within that. I mean, I know you're a freelancer, so what are your thoughts? Because I also wanted to make it a fun place for people to work.
Well, actually, I was kind of stuck on the idea of the benefits. As a freelancer, I think that would be really attractive. Yeah. No. That wouldn't necessarily make it fun. No. That's smart. Absolutely. I think that, you know, not everyone went to business school. Not everyone has the client-facing skills.
Yeah.
And they have crazy ideas and they want to get that out. So actually my thoughts were more along the lines, when you hire those freelancers, what are your policies around them showcasing the work that that they create for you or for the clients? Do you maintain a Illustria portfolio on your individual freelancers or designers or in-house designers? Or do you negotiate portfolio permissions for them to display that work?
We have to ask the corporations for permissions, because it is confidential for them.
Right, and that's actually, as a freelancer, that's probably the number one problem that I come across, is being able to showcase the work that I create, because most of it is proprietary, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
So you have to take my word for it that I'm an amazing freelancer, that you should hire me. We talked to Patty first.
Sorry.
Also, on the benefit side, if you're hiring people, you're a startup, stock options. I mean, you don't need 401k, you need stock options in startup land.
You had a question?
Really like the idea. I think it's a great idea. And actually, there's someone on my team recently that was saying, "Oh, we really need resource for exactly what you're offering." They wanted headcount, and was basically, dream on. That's never going to happen. So something like this is great. I think for me, what interesting listening to being commoditized is what I'm also interested in is the next stage, but it might be once you get this kind of seated and going, as far as being on the client side versus like the agency side, because I do work with agencies like Sterling in New York City that costs a lot of money, but when I just want like an innovation idea or a concept done for a qual research, I would love to play around with different creatives, and I don't always like to go back to a specific one, but I would kind of want to know like a bit of a Yelp rating, and if I could pay $90 for that person, the $65 could be the basic stuff that we do need right now, like kind of overspill, but I would want that flexibility, and you could charge higher as long as I have visibility to their, kind of.
So we do have a rating system. Once they're done with the thing, then like the client can rate them out of 5 stars.